Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session looking at Midas. Midas by John Lyly. Our last John Lyly. We have 2.5 sessions looking at this last play. It may not be his last play. We are working through a number of plays from the late 1580s. There's a relatively small window of time in which this play may have first appeared. We have a note on the title page of Played Before the Queen's Majesty upon 12-day at night by the Children of Paul's. So it's a boys' company play, say from the late 1580s, latest around 1590, because unfortunately they get wound up the following year. So we have this window of opportunity that this play can live amongst the last 3 plays that we have done over previous sessions, and so this may not be his last play within this unit, but it's the last one we're doing just simply because of the way these sessions pan out. Sometimes it's just logistics. So to find out what's happening in Midas, we have this wonderful team of readers for you today. So reading the prologue and Celia today is...
Hello, Lynsey here, professional actor in Norfolk.
And reading Petulus today is...
Hello, I'm Helen Good, I'm a historian and I'm in Hull.
Reading Pipenetta today is...
I'm Rachael, an actor in New Jersey.
Reading Midas, title character thereof, is...
Hello, I'm Emma, and I just realised you can see my Easter bunnies behind me. This is what would happen if Midas touched his pets.
It would be tragic. Reading Bacchus and Sophronia today is...
Hello, my name's Elizabeth Amisu, and I'm an author based in Romford.
Reading Licio today is...
Briony in Lincolnshire with a banana.
Excellent. Always important to try and keep up with your 5 a day, even when you're reading through plays. Reading Martius today is...
Helen Scott, based in Suffolk.
Reading Eristus today is...
Lois Potter, retired academic living in London.
And reading Mellacrites today is...
Longstaffe, also retired academic living in Lancaster.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading what few stage directions appear, and maybe even adding some inferred ones as we go. Without further ado, we're going to dive into the prologue. We haven't had a decent, juicy prologue from Lyly for a while. The other plays we've been doing, they've either been absent or short. So let's dive in. Lynsey, if you can give us the prologue in Paul's, please.
Gentlemen, so nice is the world that for apparel there is no fashion, for music no instrument, for diet no delicate, for plays no invention, but breedeth satiety before noon, and contempt before night. Come to the tailor, he is gone to the painter's, to learn how more cunning may lurk in the fashion than can be expressed in the making. Ask the musicians, they will say their heads ache with devising notes beyond Ella. Inquire at ordinaries, there must be salads for the Italian, picktooths for the Spaniard, pots for the German, pottage for the Englishman. At our exercises, soldiers call for tragedies, their object is blood. Courtiers for comedies, their subject is love. Countrymen for pastorals, shepherds are their saints. Traffic and travel hath woven the nature of all nations into ours, and made this land like Arras, full of devise, which was broadcloth, full of workmanship. Time hath confounded our minds the matter, but all cometh to this pass, that what heretofore hath been served in several dishes for a feast is now minced in a charger for a gallimaufry. If we present a mingle-mangle, our fault is to be excused, because the whole world is become a hodgepodge. We are jealous of your judgments because you are wise. of our own performance, because we are unperfect, of our author's device, because he is idle. Only this doth encourage us, that presenting our studies before gentlemen, though they receive an inward mislike, we shall not be hissed with an open disgrace. Stirps rudis urtica est, stirps generosa rosa.
And thus closes the prologue with an epithet along the lines of if you're a lower-born, you're a weed, well-bred, you're more of a rose kind of logic. We've been here before with Lyly prologues, haven't we? Don't blame me if the play isn't quite what you're expecting, because it's just the story of a man in the moon, or in this case, don't object to this play being a mingle-mangle because the world is a hodgepodge. There's no point trying, is there? Lynsey.
Yeah, early Brexiteer klaxon, this comparison between we used to be like broadcloth full of workmanship, but now we've got all of these Europeans coming, so we're now like Aris and we're full of devices. So.
Other thoughts? Helen, and then Stephen.
Are we thinking here of just a male audience?
Well, you asking is the Queen in attendance, or
No. The Queen obviously isn't in attendance. I mean, this isn't at court. This is at Paul's. So presumably it's in the playing area that the boys of Paul's used. But the implication is that all the audience are men. Or is he just thinking that only the men are worthy of being addressed in a prologue?
Lois might have a response to that.
I mean, it says it was played before the Queen's Majesty.
But not necessarily with this prologue, to be fair.
Oh, yeah.
It might just be that the gentlemen are the majority of the audience, and they're the ones you address putatively to. We do know women went to plays. I don't know what the putative audience for Paul's was like. Stephen, but then Elizabeth and Alan.
Just responding to Lynsey's point. I'm wondering if device and devise are the same words, because later on, the author's device, they're jealous of the author's device, which I sort of take to mean they're worried about the author's ingenuity or invention. And I wonder if that there's a sort of tension playing out there between the two senses or the two usages. That on the one hand, you've got kind of trendy postmodern Aris cloth versus broadcloth, but it seems to be a good idea if your author has a device.
Mm.
So I don't know. Perhaps I'm misunderstanding the words, but it's an interesting thing to ponder for me.
Yes, and it would change that sort of interpretation somewhat, which may well be more accurate. So
yes, I don't know whether the original printing that's accurately an S. I know in the later edition I got device with a C. I need to double check whether that's either an error or an original word choice, and that's a really interesting question. I'll go briefly to Lois before I go to Elizabeth and Alan.
Yeah, I just wondered about because the language here is quite beautiful anyway. I think in that particular sentence, traffic and travel hath woven the nature of all nations into ours. I'm not sure it's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, especially because the broadcloth full of workmanship. I mean, it could mean, just lots of work. And now we've got device, we are actually more sophisticated. It's not necessarily a bad thing.
Elizabeth.
Yes. I was just wanting to say we were just talking about the text and the prologue, and I was thinking about it was done at the time in early modern England to add a prologue or a preface to a play for printing, and I was wondering if that might have been what happened here. Whether the prologue would have actually been in the actual performance or whether it was kind of restricted to the quarto.
Any thoughts on the room on that? Helen?
Yeah, I'm not a theatre historian, but my impression is that both prologues and epilogues did get spoken in the playhouses and at court.
It seems to be performative, but Lois.
It's called the prologue in Paul's. I mean, Tiffany Stern argues that prologues were spoken generally just at the first performance and not afterwards, that they're kind of an introduction to the thing.
Alan, you were next.
Yeah, I must admit, on the point of whether this was performed, I think it probably was, because the other Lyly plays we've seen, in some cases we've actually had both prologues, the one for the public performance and also a court one. The court one being usually fairly nauseatingly subservient and crawling. And the question of it being addressed to gentlemen, I wonder whether that might be because they were the ones who were likely to have the purses on them. You know, so it was basically give us your money.
Or they might be the ones with the most outrageous fashion sitting closest to the performers, and therefore easy people to pick on. Those who like to be seen when going to a performance. Anyway, we maybe have gone into too much detail on an element of performance that we might reasonably cut from modern performance. So let's go into some text that we would almost certainly keep. So it's Elizabeth first. Yes, because we have the arrival on stage for Act 1, Scene 1. We got Bacchus, we got Midas, we got Eristus, Martius and Mellacrites coming on. Bacchus speaks first before Midas.
Midas, where the gods bestow benefits, they ask thanks, but where they receive good turns, they give reward. Thou hast filled my belly with meat, mine ears with music, mine eyes with wonders. Bacchus of all the gods is the best fellow, and Midas amongst men, a king of fellows. All thy grounds are vineyards, thy corn, grapes, thy chambers, cellars, thy household stuff, standing cups. And therefore ask anything, it shall be granted. Wouldest thou have the pipes of thy conduits to run wine, the udders of thy beasts to drop nectar, or thy trees to bud ambrosia? Desirest thou to be fortunate in thy love, or in thy victories famous, or to have the years of thy life as many as the hairs on thy head? Nothing shall be denied. So great is Bacchus, so happy is Midas.
Bacchus, for a king to beg of a god, it is no shame, but to ask with advice, wisdom, give me leave to consult, least desiring things above my reach, I be fired with Phaeton, or against nature, and be drowned with Icarus, and so perishing, the world shall both laugh and wonder, crying, Magnus tamen exceedit Ursus.
Consult, Bacchus will consent.
Now, my lords, let me hear your opinions. What wish may make Midas most happy and his subjects best content?
Were I a king, I would wish to possess my mistress. For what sweetness can there be found in life but love, whose wounds, the more mortal they are to the heart, the more immortal they make the possessors. And who knoweth not that the possessing of that must be most precious, the pursuing whereof is so pleasing.
Love is a pastime for children, breeding nothing but folly, and nourishing nothing but idleness. I would wish to be a monarch of the world, conquering kingdoms like villages, and being greatest on the earth, be commander of the whole earth. For what is there that more tickles the mind of a king than the hope to be the only king, wringing out of every country tribute, and in his own to sit in triumph? Those that call conquerors ambitious are like those that term thrift covetousness. cleanliness, pride, honesty, preciseness. Command the world, Midas, a greater thing you cannot desire, a less you should not.
Say you, Mellacrites.
Nothing? Further, these two have said nothing. I would wish everything I touched might turn to gold. This is the sinews of war, the sweetness of peace. Is it not gold that maketh the chastest to yield to lust, the honest to lewdness, the wisest to folly, the faithfulest to deceit, and the most holy in heart to be the most hollow of heart? In this word, gold, are all the powers of the gods, the desires of men, the wonders of the world, the miracles of nature, the looseness of fortune, and the triumphs of time. By gold you may shake the courts of other princes, have your own settled. One spade of gold undermines faster than 100 mattocks of steel. Would one be that thought religious, devout? Quantum quisque sua numorum servat in area, tantimi habet et fidei. Religion's balance are golden bags. Desire you virtue. Querende pecunia primum est, virtus post nummos. First stare of virtue is money. Doth any thirst after gentry and wish to be esteemed beautiful? Et genus of formam regina pecunia donat. King coin hath a mint to stamp gentlemen, and art to make amiableness. I deny not, but love is sweet, marrow of a man's mind, that to conquer kings is the quintessence of the thoughts of kings. Why then, follow both. Aurea, sunt vere nunc saecula plurimus auro venit onus, auro conciliatur amor. It is a world for gold, honour and love, both taken up on interest. Doth Midas determine to tempt the minds of true subjects, to draw them from obedience to treachery, from their allegiance and oaths to treason and perjury? Quid non mortalia pectora cogit aura sacrifans? What oaths doth not gold bore in men's hearts? Such virtue, there we go, being bred in the barrenest ground and trodden underfoot, it mounteth to sit on princes' heads. Wish gold, Midas, or wish not to be Midas. In the council of the gods was not Anubis with his long nose of gold preferred before Neptune, whose stature was but brass, and Asclepius more honoured for his golden beard than Apollo for his sweet harmony.
To have gold and not love, which cannot be purchased by gold, is to be a slave to gold.
To possess mountains of gold and a mistress more precious than gold, and not to command the world, is to make Midas a new prentice to a mint and a journeyman to a woman.
To enjoy a fair lady in love, and want fair gold to give, to thousands of people to fight and no penny to pay, will make one's mistress wild, his soldiers tame. Jupiter was a god, but he knew gold was a greater, and flew into these grates with his golden wings where he could not enter with his swan's wing. What stayed Atalanta's course with Hippomenes? An apple of gold. What made the three goddesses strive? An apple of gold. If therefore thou make not thy mistress a goldfinch, thou mayest chance to find a wagtail. Believe me, res es ingeniosa dare. Besides, how many gates to cities this golden key hath opened, we may remember of late, and ought to fear hereafter. The iron world is worn out, the golden is now come. So Jovi nunc mundus sequare Jovis.
Gold is but the guts of the earth.
Rather have the earth guts than the moon's brains. What is it that gold cannot command, or hath not conquered? Justice itself, herself. The city wimpled about the eyes, doth it, not because she will take no gold, but she not be seen blushing when she takes it. The balance she holdeth, not to weigh the right of the cause, but the weight of the bribe. She will put up her naked sword if thou offer her a golden scabbard.
Cease you to dispute. I am determined. It is gold, Bacchus, that Midas desireth. Let everything that Midas toucheth be turned to gold. So shalt thou bless thy guest, and manifest thy godhead. Let it be gold, Bacchus.
Midas, thy wish cleaveth to thy last word. Take up this stone.
Fortunate Midas, it is gold, Mellacrites, gold, it is gold.
This stick.
Gold, Mellacrites, my sweet boy, all is gold. Forever honoured be Bacchus, that above measure hath made Midas fortunate.
If Midas be pleased, Bacchus is. I will to my temple with Silenus, for by this time there are many to offer unto me sacrifices. Paenam pro munere poscis.
Come, my lords, I will with gold pave my court, and deck with gold my turrets. These petty islands near to Phrygia shall totter, and other kingdoms be turned topsy-turvy. I will command both the affections of men and their fortunes. Chastity will grow cheap where gold is thought dear. Celia, chaste Celia, shall yield. You, my lords, shall have my hands in your houses, turning your brazen gates to fine gold. Thus shall Midas be monarch of the world, the darer of fortune, the commander of love. Come, let us in.
We follow, desiring that our thoughts may be touched with thy fingers, that they also may become gold.
Well, I fear the event because of Bacchus' last words, Paenam pro munere poscis.
Tush, he is a drunken god, else he would not have given so great a gift. Now it is done, I care not for anything he can do.
And they exit. And yes, most people in the audience even today will probably know the story even as it's coming to light. Yeah, we have this little debate here about what, and I think we've all had this debate in our lives. And, if you got 3 wishes, if you got a wish, what would you do with it? And we get some options here from various advisors, and we get some trick props possibly going on here. So we've got a stone and a stick that either some sort of substitution goes on, or they do something clever. I don't know. But yeah, they turn into gold. Yes, we've had in the chat various people suggesting songs that we could apply to this, and we're going to be very careful not to sing them. So, thoughts from the room. It's a nice little setup. I think we know what's going on, which is always nice. It sets its stall out quite nicely. We are expecting things to go wrong for Midas any time soon. Thoughts? Anyone got it? Elizabeth?
I just wanted to say that I loved Mellacrites' speeches. He had a big one, which was really beautiful, Lily, and I just thought, oh yeah, this is why I love Lily so much. And I just love Mellacrites' speeches, yeah.
Yeah, especially as he's basically saying gold, and we in the audience knowing where the story is going, no, don't ask for gold. So the fact that it's this really long and lovely sort of speech is actually sort of this has a lovely reaction for that. Who's next? Alan.
Yeah, usual problem with Lily. The showy-offy Latin quotes, which nobody nowadays would probably understand, and probably were not that widely understood even then.
There's a lot of Latin being thrown in here. Sometimes with some sense of where it's coming, and sometimes it just sort of just lands in various ways. Yeah, that's a big question. Briony.
I totally agree with Elizabeth, like some of the, well, all the words here, but just to add that there was some cracking one-liners as well, because there was one that Lois said that I really loved about gold is just the guts of the earth.
Yes, I've got that noted as t-shirt line, really, isn't it? It's a good one. Yeah. It does mix it up. We have got some long speeches, but we also have some nice one-liners. And I'd say the advantage here is a very simple situation, so that it's not like we're confused as to where we are. Emma.
It's great because you can really see the effect of gold on Midas pretty much straight away, like the instant he touches it. Because at the beginning he's written as quite kind of careful and seeking advice, and he knows what it is to be an overreacher. But as soon as he touches that gold, he sort of says, Bacchus is a drunk god. No one can touch me. That kind of arrogance hits him straight away. You can see in the language.
Yeah, Helen.
Two things. One is, no, three. One is that I Googled a bit of the Latin and it came back, are you sure you mean that type messages? So I'm not sure it's good Latin. It probably is, but I don't know. Google isn't that great at Latin. That's one. Two, I rather like the Midas that he takes advice from his court. This is not an arbitrary king. It's someone who says, right, let's hear the various views so that we can choose between them. And the third is that he could ask for gold, but that's not what he asks for. And it's the way he phrases it that causes the problem. If he had just asked Bacchus for 3 tons of gold delivered weekly at the back door, life would have been so much easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And we should touch on the there are 2 other opinions. We basically broadly got you could have love, or you can sort of have martial power, I think is the broad outline. Lois.
Yeah, it's just that bit of the king asking advice of his counselors we had at the beginning of quite a few plays, and I think they nearly always pick the worst possible advice, don't they?
Yes,
yeah, well, they give gold a lot of airtime. I'm feeling the moderator for this debate is really not working hard enough there. Should call time on Mellacrites and allow the other 2 more room for speaking. Rachael.
Mellacrites talks about the golden apple, and you really have like the same problem. I mean, not problem, but thing being given to Midas in this situation, where he can have love, where he can have war, where he can have gold. I don't. It's like Athena, Hera, and Aphrodite coming up to him with these 3 different options, but it's just Bacchus.
Yeah, and what the impression we get of Bacchus? He's he doesn't get that much dialogue. He's presumably I don't know how he could be quite drunk. I don't know. How does this play open? Is it a sort of yay kind of thing, or is how's it opening? Lois.
Yeah, it probably does open with music in the background, everybody coming out with cups in their hands and so on, and in a happy mood, and that might explain a lot. Yeah, so I was thinking back to the choice of Paris, and what's interesting is that love and power are both offered, but so is wisdom, which is the one thing that's missing here. I mean, if anybody had thought of asking for wisdom, it might have been a really good idea.
And we should really start asking around the room, what would you ask Bacchus for? I know exactly what I'd ask Bacchus for. Guaranteed full houses. Straightforward. Ordinary ticket prices. Just make sure that there's some bugger there. Right. We're going to have to go on to Act 1, Scene 2. And move on. So we have a scene coming up now. We have the entrance of 2 additional characters, Licio and Petulus.
Thou servest Mellacrites, and I his daughter. Which is the better man?
The masculine gender is more worthy than the feminine. Therefore, Licio, Hacare.
That is when those 2 genders are at jar, but when they belong both to one thing, then...
What then?
Then they agree like the fiddle and the stick.
Pulcresane, God's blessing on thy blue nose. But Licio, my mistress, is a proper woman.
Ay, but thou knowest not her properties.
I care not for her qualities, so I may embrace her quantity.
Are you so pert?
Ay, and so expert that I can as well tell the thoughts of a woman's heart by her eyes as the change of the weather by an almanac.
Sir boy, you must not be saucy.
No, but faithful and serviceable.
Lock up your lips, or I will lop them off. But, sirrah, for thy better instructions, I will unfold every wrinkle of my mistress' disposition.
I pray thee do so.
But for this time, I will only handle the head and pertinence.
Oh, nothing else.
Why, will not that be a long hour's work to describe? That is almost a whole day's work to dress.
Proceed.
First, she hath a head as round as a tennis ball.
Ooh, I would my bed were a hazard.
Why?
Nothing, but I would have her head there, among other balls.
Video pro intelligio. Then hath she an hawk's eye.
Oh, that I were a partridge head,
To what end?
that she might tire with her eyes on my countenance.
Wouldst thou be hanged?
Skillicet.
Well, she hath the tongue of a parrot.
That's a leaden dagger in a velvet sheath, to have a black tongue in a fair mouth.
Tush! It is not for the blackness, but for the babbling. For every hour she will cry, "Walk, knave, walk."
Then I will mutter, a rope for parrot, a rope.
So mayst thou be hanged, not by the lips, but by the neck. Then, sir, hath she a calf's tooth.
Oh, monstrous mouth! I would then it had been a sheep's eye and a neat's tongue.
It is not for the bigness, but the sweetness. All her teeth are as sweet as the sweet tooth of a calf.
Sweetly meant.
She hath the ears of a want.
Does she want ears?
I say the ears of a want, a mole. Thou dost want wit to understand me. She will hear, though she never be so low on the ground.
Why then, if one ask her a question, is it likely she will hearken to it?
Hearken thou after that. She hath the nose of a sow.
Ah, then belike there she wears her wedding ring.
No, she can smell a knave a mile off.
Let us go further, Licio. She hath both us in the wind.
She hath a beetle brow.
What, is she beetle-browed?
Thou hast a beetle head. I say the brow of a beetle, a little fly whose brow is as black as velvet.
What lips has she?
Tush, the lips are no part of the head, only made for a double leaf door for the mouth.
What then the chin?
That is only the threshold to the door.
I perceive you are driven to the wall that stands behind the door, for this is ridiculous. But now you can say no more of the head. Begin with the pertinences. for that was your promise.
The pertinences. It is impossible to reckon them up, much less to tell the nature of them. Hoods, frontlets, wires, cauls, curling irons, periwigs, bodkins, fillets, hair laces, ribbons, rolls, knot strings, glasses, combs, caps, hats, coifs, kerchers, clothes, earrings, borders, crippins, shadows, spots, and so many other trifles, as both I want the words of art to name them, time to utter them, and wit to remember them. These be but a few notes.
Notes, quoth you. I note one thing,
What is that?
that if every part requires so much as the head, it will make the richest husband in the world ache at the heart.
Enter Pipenetta.
But soft, here comes Pipenetta. What news?
I would not be in your coats for anything.
Indeed, if thou shouldst rig up and down in our jackets, thou wouldst be thought a very tomboy.
I mean, I would not be in your cases.
Neither shalt thou, Pipenetta, for first they are too little for thy body, and then too fair to pull over so foul a skin.
These boys be drunk. I would not be in your takings.
I think so, for we take nothing in our hands but weapons. It is for thee to use needles and pins, a sampler, not a buckler.
Nay, then, we shall never have done. I mean, I would not be so cursed as you shall be.
Worse and worse. We are no chase, pretty mops, for a deer. We are not neither red nor fallow, because we are bachelors, and have not cornucopia. We want heads. Hares we cannot be, because they are male one year and the next female. We change not our sex. Badgers we are not, for our legs are one as long as another. And who will take us to be foxes, that stand so near a goose and bite not?
Fools you are, and therefore good game for wise men to hunt. But, knaves, I leave you, for honest wenches to talk of.
Nay, stay, sweet Pipenetta, we are but disposed to be merry.
I marvel how old you will be before you be disposed to be honest. But this is the matter. My master is gone abroad, and wants his page to wait on him. My mistress would rise, and lacks your worship to fetch her hair.
Why, is it not on her head?
Methinks it should, but I mean that hair that she must wear today.
Why, doth she wear any but her own?
In faith, sir, no. I am sure it's her own when she pays for it. But do you hear the strange news at court?
No, except this be it, to have one's hair lie all night out of the house from one's head.
Tush! Everything that Midas touches is gold.
The devil it is.
Indeed, gold is the devil.
Thou art deceived, wench. Angels are gold. But is it true?
True. Why, the meat that he toucheth turneth to gold. So doth the drink. So doth his raiment.
I would he would give me a good box on the ear, that I might have a golden cheek.
How happy shall we be if he would but stroke our heads, that we might have golden hairs. But let us all in, lest he lose the virtue of the gift before we taste the benefit.
If he take a cudgel and that turn to gold, yet beating you with it, you shall only feel the weight of gold.
What difference to be beaten with gold and to be beaten gold?
As much as to say, drink before you go, and go before you drink.
Come, let us go, lest we drink of a dry cup for our long tarrying.
And they exit. It's getting very Alice in Wonderland towards the end there. As much as to say, drink before you go and go before you drink. It's interesting. We have this sort of late onset plot arrival. We have all this sort of witty banter for about 2/3, 3/4 of the scene, and then finally But this is the matter. My master has gone abroad. I came in here for a reason. I forget what it... Oh, yes, this is what it was. Followed by some, I'm going to call basil brush style gags. I just write in the margins, boom, boom, when you just hit some quality mirthing there going on. Fetch her hair. Why is it not on her head? And you can just hear that landing from miles away. There's lots of stuff going on here. Thoughts on the room? We haven't had this sort of level of comedy servant narration for a while. That seems quite separate from anything else. It does seem very isolated from the main body of the plot. Everyone's just stunned by the quality of the jokes here. Briony, then Alan.
I don't know if it was because I wasn't so prepared for it or not, but it seemed a bit slow starting, that scene. And again, I think some of it might have been understanding and lack thereof. But yeah, once we got into it, I was like, okay, yes, this is definitely a comedy scene. But at the start, I was kind of thinking, like, am I not reading this right? It just didn't. It was a bit clunky. But once it got into it, it was, you knew where they were going with it, even if you didn't understand half the jokes.
Yeah, Alan.
Yeah, I must admit, I think this goes back to something we've seen in previous Lilies, where there was a small group who were rehearsed separately. Maybe they developed their shtick, their routine, and then I think there's been a sort of late edit to try and actually stick stuff in that makes it actually connect in some distant form with the main plot line.
I don't think it's quite.
It's almost fully.
Yeah, I don't know if it's quite that far. I think it's probably intended to function in this way. To close the scene, you refer to something that's happening elsewhere in the plot, but the scene itself seems quite detachable and just ongoing business. Maybe it'll connect with the rest of the plot. Who knows? Lois.
Yeah, this is a pretty tired gag, really, that we have had before. My mistress is like this, and then so she's like this, oh, that means, then she's like this, that means, and no, you got it wrong, it means something else. I don't know, it just seemed we've had this. I think it was wasn't it with Sir Topaz, maybe?
We may have indeed had this basic structure to this gag before. It does have a certain sort of shticky quality to it, doesn't it? Other thoughts? No. Helen.
Yeah, it's another reason for me why I think that this Midas play is not the last of the Lyly plays, but earlier than the last two we've read.
Mm-hmm. Perfectly plausible. I mean, there isn't that much gap in time for any of them, so it may be that we're looking for patterns that aren't necessarily there. But that doesn't mean you're wrong. Just means we can't prove it. Okay, we're going to go into Act 2. There are only 2 scenes in Act 1. It was quite short. We're going to go into Act 2. We're going to return to some people we've largely met before with a couple of bonuses. So we have now initially entering, we have Eristus and Celia. We will have the additional entrances of Sophronia, Mellacrites and Martius later on, but at the moment it's just Eristus and Celia.
Fair Celia, thou seest, of gold there is satiety, of love there cannot.
If thou shouldst wish that whatsoever thou thoughtest might be love, as Midas, whatever he touched, might be gold, it may be love would be as loathsome to thine ears as gold is to his eyes, and make thy heart pinch with melancholy as his guts do with famine.
No, sweet Celia, in love there is variety.
Indeed, men vary in their love.
They vary their love, yet change it not.
Love and change are at variance, therefore if they vary, they must change.
Men change the manner of their love, not the humor. the means how to obtain, not the mistress they honor. So did Jupiter, that could not entreat Danae by golden words, possess his love by a golden shower, not altering his affection, but using art.
That same Jupiter was an eagle, a swan, a bull, and for every saint a new shape, as men have for every mistress a new shadow. If you take example of the gods, who more wanton, more wavering? If of yourselves, being but men, who will think you more constant than gods? Eristus, if gold could have allured mine eyes, thou knowest Midas that commandeth all things to be gold had conquered. If threats might have feared my heart, Midas, being a king, might have commanded my affections. If love, gold, or authority might have enchanted me, Midas had obtained by love, gold, and authority. Quorum si singula nostrum flectere, non poterent, puissant omnia mentem.
Ah, Celia, if kings say they love and yet dissemble, who dare say that they dissemble not love? They command the affections of others to yield and their own to be believed. My tears, which have made furrows in my cheeks and in mine eyes fountains, my sighs, which have made of my heart a furnace and kindled in my head flames, my body that melteth by piecemeal, and my mind that pineth at an instant, may witness that my love is both unspotted and unspeakable. Quorum si singula durum flectere non poterant, deberent omnia mentum. But soft, here cometh the princess with the rest of the lords.
And enter Sophronia as well as Mellacrites and Martius.
Mellacrites, I cannot tell whether I should more mislike thy counsel or my disconsent, but the covetous humour of you both I condemn and wonder at, being unfit for a king, whose honour should consist in liberality, not greediness, and unworthy the calling of Mellacrites, whose fame should rise by the soldier's god, Mars, not by the merchant's god, gold.
Madam, things past cannot be recalled, but repented, and therefore are rather to be pitied than punished. It now behoveth us how to redress the miserable estate of our king, not to dispute of the occasion. Your highness sees, and without grief you cannot see, that his meat turneth to massy gold in his mouth, his wine slideth down his throat like liquid gold. If he touch his robes, they are turned to gold. And what is not that toucheth him but becometh gold.
Aye, Mellacrites, if thy tongue had been turned to gold before thou gavest our king such counsel, Midas' heart had been full of ease, and thy mouth of gold.
My advice had taken place. Midas, that now sitteth over head and ear in crowns, had worn upon his head many kings' crowns, and been conqueror of the world, that is now commander of Dross. That greediness of Mellacrites, whose heartstrings are made of Pluto's purse strings, hath made Midas a lump of earth, that should be a god on earth. And thy effeminate mind, Eristus, whose eyes are stitched on Celia's face, and thoughts gived to her beauty, hath bred in all the court such a tender wantonness, that nothing is thought of but love, a passion proceeding of beastly lust, and coloured with courtly name of love. Thus whilst we follow the nature of things, we forget the names. Since this unsatiable thirst of gold and untemperate humour of lust crept into the king's court, soldiers have begged alms of artificers, and with their helmet on their head been glad to follow a lover with a glove in his hat, which so much abateth the courage of true captains, that they must account it more honourable in the court to be a coward so rich and amorous, than in a camp to be valiant, if poor and maimed. He is more favoured that pricks his finger with his mistress' needle, than he that breaks his lance on his enemy's face, and he that hath his mouth full of fair words, than he hath his body full of deep scars. If one be old and have silver hairs in his beard, so shall he have golden ruddocks in his bags. He must be wise and honourable. If young and have curled locks on his head, amorous glances with his eyes, smooth speeches in his mouth, and every lady's lap shall be his pillow, every lady's face his glass, every lady's ear a sheath for his flatteries. Only soldiers, if they be old, must beg in their own countries. If young, try the fortune of wars in another. He is the man that, being let blood, carries his arm off in a scarf of his mistress' favour, not that he bears his leg on a stilt for his country's safety.
Stay, Martius, though I know love to grow to such looseness, and hoarding to such misery, that I may rather grieve at both than remedy either. Yet thy animating my father to continue arms to conquer crowns, hath only brought him into imminent danger of his own head. The love he hath followed, I fear unnatural. The riches he hath got, I know unmeasurable. The wars he hath levied, I doubt unlawful. Hath drawn his body with grey hairs to the grave's mouth, and his mind with eating cares to desperate determination. Ambition hath but two steps, the lowest blood, the highest envy. Both these hath my unhappy father climbed, digging mines of gold with the lives of men, and now envied of the whole world, is environed with enemies round about the world, not knowing that ambition hath one heel nailed in hell, though she stretch her finger to touch the heavens. I would the gods would remove this punishment, so that Midas would be penitent. Let him thrust thee, Eristus, with thy love into Italy, where they honour lust for a god, as the Egyptians did dogs. Thee, Mellacrites, with thy greediness of gold, to the utmost parts of the west, where all the guts of the earth are gold. And thee, Martius, that soundest but blood and terror, into those barbarous nations, where nothing is to be found but blood and terror. Let Phrygia be an example of chastity, not lust, liberality, not covetousness, valour, not tyranny. I wish not your bodies banished, but your minds, that my father and your king may be our honour and the world's wonder. And thou, Celia, and all you ladies, learn this of Sophronia, that beauty in a minute is both a blossom and a blast. Love, a worm, which seeming to live in the eye, dies in the heart. You be all young and fair, endeavour all to be wise and virtuous, that when, like roses, you shall fall from the stalk, you may be gathered and put to the still.
Madam, I am free from love, and unfortunate to be beloved.
To be free from love is strange, but to think scorn to be beloved, monstrous.
Eristus, thy tongue doth itch to talk of love, and my ears tingle to hear it. I charge you all, if you owe any duty to your king, to go presently unto the temple of Bacchus, offer praise gifts and sacrifice, that Midas may be released of his wish or his life. This I entreat you. This Midas commands you. Jar not with yourselves. Agree in one for your king, if ever you took Midas for your lawful king.
Madam, we will go, and omit nothing that duty may perform or pains.
Go speedily, lest Midas die before you return. And you, Celia, shall go with me, that with talk we may beguile the time, and my father think of no meat.
I attend.
And exit. So, yes, there's a lot of business in the scene of, I told you gold was not a good idea. And it goes to Sophronia to actually go, yeah, this isn't helping. Maybe we should do something practical before my father dies of starvation, because he can't eat anything. And hurry, Yeah, hurry, starving to death. Go on, get on with it. No, so all sorts of interesting things going on here. Thoughts from the room, as it were. Lots of long speeches. I think we can take that as read. A lot of text. It's quite different. We have these big scenes with big debate points and big speeches, and then we've got choppy, changey stand-up comedy routines with the servants. Alan,
Must admit, having struggled through that long speech I had, Dan's probably got views on this when he maybe comes in after lurking. The punctuation is a bloody nightmare. There's clause piled upon clause piled upon clause, and very little opportunity given for anyone to breathe.
Yeah, and a lot of that's really reasonably authentic. I mean, not all of it. There are occasional things which might be tweaked, but it is just sort of the problem with early modern prose is you have to make some decisions because the text doesn't necessarily give you that, and that's the advantage of verse drama is you've got, even if the sense hasn't finished, you usually have a place to step off, i.e. at the end of every line. Lynsey.
Yes, just really echoing what Alan said. I was aware as I was reading it that I was not making proper sense of Celia's sort of longer speech. And so when that bit was over, I went back and had a look going, how should I have read that? And I still couldn't work it out. So apologies if it was gobbledygook.
I don't think it was. I think there's always the option with a cold read of yes, we could do this better, but I don't think anyone's producing gobbledygook at this time. Other thoughts? No, we're good. Well, we know the situation, broadly speaking. Let's stop Midas starving to death. Let's do that thing. We go to Act 2, Scene 2, and we're going back to we're going from it's upstairs downstairsy. It's very upstairs downstairsy. So we've been upstairs. Let's head back downstairs. Licio, Petulus, and Pipenetta.
Ah, my girl, is not this a golden world?
It is all one as if it were led to me, with me, and yet as bold with me as with the king. For I see it and feel it not, he feels it and enjoys it not.
Gold is but the earth's garbage, a weed bred by the sun, the very rubbish of barren ground.
Tush, Licio, thou art unlettered. All the earth is an egg, the white silver, the yolk gold.
Why, thou fool, what hen should lay that?
I warrant a goose.
Nay, I believe a bull.
Blurt to you both, it was laid by the sun.
The sun is rather a cock than a hen.
'Tis true, girl, else how could Titan have trodden Daphne?
I weep over both your wits. If I prove in every respect no difference between an egg and gold, will you not then grant gold to be an egg?
Yes, but I believe thy idle imagination will make it an addle egg.
Let us hear. Proceed, Dr. Egg.
Gold will be cracked. A common saying, a cracked crown.
Aye, that's a broken head.
Nay, then I see thou hast a broken wit.
Way, suppose gold will crack.
So will an egg.
On.
An egg is roasted in the fire.
Well.
So is gold tried in the fire.
Fourth.
An egg, as physicians say, will make one lusty.
Conclude.
And who knows not that gold will make one frolic?
Pipenetta, this is true, for it is called egg, as a thing that doth egg on, so doth gold.
Let us hear all.
Eggs poached are for weak stomachs, and gold boiled for a consuming body.
Spoken like a physician.
Or a fool of necessity.
An egg is eaten at one sup, and a Portuguese lost at one cast.
Gamester like concluded.
Eggs make custards, and gold makes spoons to eat them.
A reason thou hate.
Oh, the oven of his wit was not thoroughly heated.
Only this odd I find between money and eggs, which makes me wonder that being more pence in the world than eggs, that one should have 3 eggs for a penny and not 3 pence for an egg.
A wonderful matter, but your wisdom is overshot in your comparison, for eggs have chickens, gold hath none.
Mops, I pity thee. Gold hath eggs. Change an angel into 10 shillings, and all those pieces are the angel's eggs.
He hath made a spoke. Wilt thou eat an egg? But soft, here come our masters. Let us shrink aside.
And enter Mellacrites, Martius, Eristus.
Short answer, and yet a sound. Bacchus is pithy and pitiful.
And he reads the oracle.
If Petulus go bathe, thy wish and thee, thy wish the waves shall have, and thou be free.
Understand no oracles. Shall the water turn everything to gold? What then shall become of the fish? Shall she be free from gold? What then shall become of us, of his crown, of our country? I like not these riddles.
Thou, Martius, art so warlike thou wouldst cut off the wish with a sword, not cure it with a salve. The gods that can give the desires of the heart can as easily withdraw the torment. Suppose Vulcan should so temper thy sword, that where thy heart never so valiant, thine arm never so strong, yet thy blade should never draw blood. Wouldst thou not wish to have a weaker hand and a sharper edge?
Yes.
If Mars should answer thee thus, go bathe thy sword in water, and wash thy hands in milk, and thy sword shall cleave adamant, and thy heart answer the sharpness of thy sword, wouldst not thou try the conclusion?
What else?
And let Midas believe, till he have tried, and think that the gods rule as well by giving remedies as granting wishes. But Eristus, his mum,
Celia hath sealed his mouth.
Celia hath sealed her face in my heart, which I am no more ashamed to confess than thou that Mars hath made a scar in thy face, Martius. But let us in to the king. Sir boys, you wait well.
We durst not go to Bacchus, for if I see a grape, my head aches.
And if I find a cudgel, I'll make your shoulders ache.
you, Licio, wait on yourself.
I cannot choose, sir. I'm always so near myself.
I'll be as near you as your skin presently.
And exit. So yes, people from the A plot are engaging actively now with those in the B plot. Though the B plot is primarily engaged in a lengthy and extended wordplay and things to do with eggs. We did. There was an egg missing from one of the lines. What hen should lay that egg? It was quite an important word actually in the context of that scene, setting up lots and lots of situations there. And then the A plot intercedes and steps in. Thoughts from the room about what's going on here, where you think it's going? Because that's the end of Act 2. That's 2 acts down, 4 scenes. Play's whizzing by. Any comments anyone wants to make? There's a note in the chat about there's some raunchy jokes. Anyone wants to comment on that sort of question about wordplay, what the banter is, how it all flowing together or doesn't flow together, or Oh, it's people are struggling. People are struggling to comment here. Briony.
It's not about the smuttiness for once, coming from me. You'll all be surprised to hear. Just I really like the way they used the way me and Pipenetta were just sort of saying fourth, conclude, just to snap it along. I like the bounciness of that. How it's, you know, they're drawing all of this out of Petulus.
Other thoughts? Helen.
I think to make this scene work, at any rate, the actors concerned need to actually know what they're talking about. I mean, it may be impossible for the audience without extensive footnotes and possibly a lecture beforehand to understand exactly what's being said all the time. But it would help if the actors knew, because then they could show that it was being hilarious, even if it wasn't.
Isn't it basically just a play on yolks of an egg are golden? Basically,
Yeah.
that's the joke. It's just being played in so many different ways, constantly. Whether, of course, that comes across is another matter. You're absolutely right. To get it across, we need to absolutely drill down what every single joke is. It's that question of, you know, what's the joke? What's the game? Absolutely. I saw Lynsey waving, and then Rachael.
Yeah, just I mean, I don't know, but it struck me as that section was being read that this is a sort of piss take of a particular form of, you know, of rhetorical proof that would happen in school. You know, you first have this, and then you have that, and then you have the other, and then you conclude. I mean, I don't know enough about, you know, the forms of rhetoric to kind of identify that clearly and confidently, but that was just how it seemed when I was listening to it.
Yes, no, I think that's absolutely right, and that gives it a form, even if you don't know the way these things are supposed to go. You know, if you have a form that you do this and then you do this, and you know, and it's like they're drilled into how you do something, then that gives you a performance quality to how you do it as well. Rachael.
No, I was just going to say that comedy servants in this one are, I think I always like comedy servants, but I really like the comedy servants in this one. Just them going on about different type of eggs and the different things you can make with eggs, and making it into puns on gold, and into, you know, like jokes about, you know, like sexual jokes, I think is pretty funny. And just like I think there's also that the goose that laid the golden egg type thing comes into play, and they're basically saying you can't eat gold because it's too hard to eat.
Stephen, and then Lois.
I'm just wondering, I mean, perhaps it's happened already and I've missed it, but right at the end of the scene, they're explicitly identified as boys, aren't they? And I'm wondering what that does retrospectively to what's been going on, or perhaps it might give us a clue as to how this is played, because I'd certainly just assumed that they were, as it were, supposed to be adult, bantery type servants, but they seem to be very clearly placed as boys. And
I got that from the earlier scene when they were talking about wearing our coats, because they would be too small for you.
Right. So what does that do then to our understanding of them as servants? Because they're servants and they're schoolboys who have been learning their rhetoric, presumably, or are they kids who've been? Is it sort of mixing the kids of St. Paul's who are doing their kind of rhetorical education? Is mixing that up with people who are in the plot who are servants, if you see what I mean? We've got two levels going on here, one of which is sort of slightly more meta.
Good question. Lois, then Briony.
Yeah, I mean, the schoolboys in these plays are often very learned and do tend to quote Latin a lot. I think partly because they would have gone to school or university along with their masters, and they've often picked up quite a lot there. It's not clear what their actual social standing is apart from the people they're serving. Yeah, the other thing I was wondering about, just in terms of making the scene work, I think I once saw a production where somebody who had to explain some incredibly complicated puns had a flip chart and kept drawing things on it, and flipping it over and doing more. And I thought that might work as a way of getting some of these peculiar equivalents, pictures and then equals marks and then another picture, something like that.
Well, yeah, and just going back to Stephen's point about that question of who are they? If these are the young lads who always play the servants, who are always playing this kind of slightly separate from the main plot kind of material, then maybe they land on that sort of clown axis of, well, you're always the clown who's slightly doing what you always do, slightly outside of the universe of the play, so it is a bit meta on that level. So I'm just whether there's something about that, just because it's always the same boys, perhaps, who are doing this kind of role. Briony.
Yeah, I was just going to sort of comment vaguely on that, just that there is, and I mean, I don't know as many of these plays from this time as everybody else here, but like there is a bit of a tradition sometimes with the servants. Even though they can be quite silly, they're normally quite cerebral, especially compared to like the richer half. Quite often there'll be that contrast of intelligence. So I wonder if they've used that schoolboy educatedness to just really cement that.
Any other thoughts? Very briefly, Helen.
In reality, as opposed to on the stage, being a servant was often a stage that you went through while growing up. So a lot of servants would be very young. The aged servant was the exception rather than the rule.
Okay, we're going to go into Act 3, and so far the title character has not played an exactly exhaustive role in the action. Let's see if we can rebalance the scales slightly. So enter Midas, Mellacrites, Martius, and Eristus. All the councillors and the king enter.
If Petulus go bathe thy wish and thee, thy wish the waves shall have, and thou he be free. Miserable Midas, as unadvised in thy wish as in thy success unfortunate. Unquenchable thirst of gold, which turneth men's heads to lead, and makest them blockish, their hearts to iron, and makest them covetous, their eyes to delight in the view, and makes them blind in the use. I that did possess mines of gold could not be contented till my mind were also a mine. Could not the treasure of Phrygia, nor the tributes of Greece, nor mountains in the east, whose guts are gold, satisfy thy mind with gold? Ambition eateth gold, and drinketh blood, climbeth so high by other men's heads, that she breaketh her own neck. What should I do with a world of ground, whose body must be content with 7 foot of earth? Or why did I covet to get so many crowns, having myself but one head? Those that took small vessels at the sea, I accompanied pirates, and myself that suppressed whole fleets, a conqueror, as though robberies of Midas might mask under the names of triumphs, and the traffic of other nations be called treachery. Thou hast pampered up thyself with slaughter, as Diomedes did his horse with blood. So unsatiable thy thirst, so heavy thy sword. 2 books have I always carried in my bosom, calling them the Dagger and the Sword, in which the names of all princes, noblemen, and gentlemen were dedicated to slaughter, or if not, which worse is, to slavery. O my lords, when I call to mind my cruelties in Lycaonia, my usurping in Getulia, my oppression in Sola, then do I find neither mercies in my conquests, nor colour for my wars, nor measure in my taxes. I have written my laws in blood, and made my gods of gold. I have caused the mothers' wombs to be their children's tombs. cradles to swim in blood like boats, and the temples of the gods as stews for strumpets? Have I not made the sea to groan under the number of my ships? And have they not perished, that there was not two left to make a number? Have I not thrust my subjects into a camp like oxen into a cart, whom, having made slaves by unjust wars, I use now as slaves for all wars? Have not I enticed the subjects of my neighbours' princes to destroy their natural kings? Like moths that eat the cloth in which they were bred, like vipers that gnaw the boughs of which they were born, and like worms that consume the wood in which they were engendered. To what kingdom have not I pretended claim, as though I had been by the gods created heir apparent to the world, making every trifle a title, and all the territories about me traitors to me? Why did I wish that all might be gold I touched, but that I thought all men's hearts would be touched with gold, that what policy could not compass, nor prowess, gold might have commanded and conquered? A bridge of gold did I need to make in that island when all my navy could not make a breach. Those islands did I long to touch, that I might turn them to gold and myself to glory. But unhappy Midas, who by the same means perisheth himself that he thought to conquer others, being now become a shame to the world, a scorn to that petty prince, and to thyself a consumption. A petty prince, Midas? No, a prince protected by the gods, by nature, by his own virtue, and his subjects' obedience. Have not all treasons been discovered by miracle, not counsel? That the gods do the gods challenge. Is not the country walled with huge waves? That doth nature claim. Is he not through the whole world a wonder for wisdom and temperance? That is his own strength. Do not all his subjects, like bees, swarm to preserve the king of bees, that their loyalty maintaineth? My lords, I faint both for lack of food and want of grace. I will to the river, where, if I be rid of this intolerable disease of gold, I will next shake off that untemperate desire of government, and measure my territories not by the greatness of my mind, but the right of my succession.
I'm not a little sorry that because all your highness toucheth turns to pure gold, and therefore all your princely affections should be converted to dross, doth your majesty begin to melt your own crown, that should make it with other monarchies massy? Begin you to make enclosure of your mind, and I to debate of inheritance, when the sword proclaims you conqueror? If your highness' heart be not of kingdom proofs, every pelting prince will batter it. Though you use this garish gold, let your mind be still as steel, and let the sharpest sword decide the right of sceptres.
Every little king is a king, and the title consisteth not in the compass of ground, but in the right of inheritance.
Are not conquests good titles?
Conquests are great thefts.
If your highness would be advised by me, then I would rob for kingdoms. And if I obtained, fain would I see him that durst call the conqueror a thief.
Martius, thy counsel hath shed as much blood as would make another sea. Valour I cannot call it, and barbarousness is a world too mild. Come, Mellacrites, let us go. And come you, Eristus, that if I obtain mercy of Bacchus, we may offer sacrifice to Bacchus. Martius, if you be not disposed to go, dispose as you will of yourself.
I will humbly attend on your highness, as still hoping to have my heart's desire, and you your height of honour.
And they exit. And well done, Emma, for that massive speech, which had some lovely, lovely bits. I really like that sort of opening gambit of, Midas, here's the person who transmutes base metal into gold, and what's he doing? He's transmuting gold men into base metals. I really like, this is what the gold is doing to all the people around me. He's really having a moment to think about, all the stuff around him, And also think about, how he reacts to his counsellors as well as they give their usual gobbets of advice. Lois.
Yeah, and this is surely a bit where everybody is going to think, could Midas by any chance be the king of Spain? I mean, it's all about how the corrupting effect of gold, and especially all that stuff at the end about the neighboring prince who was protected by the sea around and by the loyalty of the subjects and all that.
Other thoughts? Obviously, our modern day audience is not going to be thinking that, but yes, that's what they would have been thinking then. We'd have to have a PowerPoint presentation going on behind to make sure anyone got that. But yeah. Other thoughts? It's interesting that just the way he's reacting to his other counsellors now, because he's being a bit more critical of their advice than he was earlier. He's thinking about things a lot more. I mean, Emma, you lived through Midas' thought processes there. How were you finding it?
Yeah, I think that's probably the longest Long Lyly speech I've seen. I just was so overwhelmed by the language that just kind of, this is a cold read for me, and it just really kind of took me over as I read it. And I feel it's full of very kind of bodily imagery and metaphors, and it really kind of brings out, I think, how his body is kind of decaying and eating itself and consuming itself and coming to nothing. And just all the language just highlights that, and you get this real image of his sickness, and it's really powerful.
Yeah, this man is starving to death. I mean, he can't drink anything because it turns to gold. And you remember, we haven't really explicitly stated it here. They've gone to the Oracle. The Oracle has told him that he should go and bathe. A specific place, and that will serve. And there's some question earlier whether, what's that going to do? It's just going to turn all the fish to gold, isn't it? That'll be awful. What will the fish swim in? If he just does that. I like fish. I'm slightly elaborating now on what was said. But yeah, Stephen, I saw waving, muted at present.
Just as a kind of add-on to Emma's point, really, we're seeing a Lylian metamorphosis, aren't we, or an Ovidian metamorphosis on stage. It's like one of those sort of talking tree things, isn't it? Because he's presumably he's going to be covered in golden clothing, isn't he? So it's going to be a huge transformation since we've seen him, and we're getting the speech from the transformed person. So that's a kind of self shout out in a sense, isn't it? But it comes really early in the play, doesn't it? That we get this sort of amazing change. And so while all the things that Emma's been talking about are being said, we've also got this sort of incredible sort of parahuman, or whatever it is, spectacle, which is kind of very Lyly, isn't it? It's a sort of special effect, walking, talking special effect. So in my mind's eye, while that speech was coming, I just had this sort of image of this incredible golden being. And we've had references to, I think we have reference to golden Anubis or something like that earlier on. So it's become this mythic creature who is at the same time a king who needs some counselors and wants some practical policy advice from all these bloody spads who are following him around.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought about, when he's first given this power, is there some sort of magic costume change that his costume is instantly golden? And how movable is it, this fabric that's now gold? Does it sort of, is there a sort of bendy metal quality to it?
Well, yeah, does he have a golden beard or something? How far do we take this? Are we into full kind of Sean Connery Goldfinger sort of territory?
Yeah, you almost want there to be props that randomly something he accidentally touches something and then you go, oh, for God's sake. A pigeon lands on his head or something, and it's just. Oh.
Didn't we have a scene before? Didn't we have a stick turn into gold there?
Yes.
Do the
stone.
stick. Do the stick.
Do the stick again. Lois.
Yeah, I was just thinking it'd be fun. There are these places where there's a hole you stick your head through, and you can be photographed as a knight in shining armor or a Greek hero or something. It seems to me that would be a really easy way to do this. Just have this big gold-plated thing that he stands behind, poking his head out.
Any other thoughts before we move on? We've got one more scene to do this session. Okay, so we go back to the B characters, as it were. We're going from upstairs down to downstairs. So we have Licio, Petulus, and we'll have Dello entering, and we'll have Motto entering as well. Got some new people joining us, but for the moment we have Licio and Petulus, and Dello may be overhearing this, but won't officially enter for a moment.
Oh, Licio, a bots on the barber. Ever since I cozened him at the Golden Beard, I've had the toothache.
I think Motto hath poisoned thy gums.
It's a deadly pain.
I knew a dog run mad with it.
I believe it, Licio, and therefore it is that they call it a dogged pain. Thou knowst I've tried all old women's remedies and cunning men's charms, but interim my teeth ache.
Enter Dello, the barber's boy. Oh, have I accidentally not given out apart from that? Oh no, I've totally missed that. I must have thought I was doing that tomorrow. Never mind. Who wants to leap in? Who's not in this scene? Stephen, you can be Dello. Lynsey, you can be Motto coming up, because I'm assuming I forgot to pass out Motto as well. Okay.
I'm glad I've heard the wags to be quittance for overhearing us. We will take the vantage. They shall find us quick barbers. We tell Motto, my master, then we will have quid pro quo, a tooth for a beard.
And exit Dello.
Licio, make me merry. I pray thee, go forward with the description of thy mistress. Thou must begin now at the paps.
Indeed, Petulus, a good beginning for thee, for thou canst eat pap now, because thou canst bite nothing else. But I have not mind on those matters. If the king lose his golden wish, we shall have but a brazen court. But what became of the beard, Petulus?
I pawned it, for I durst not coin it.
What dost thou pay for the pawning?
12 pence in the pound for the month.
What for the herbage?
It's not at herbage.
Yes, Petulus, if it be a beard, it must be at herbage, for a beard is a badge of hair, and a badge of hair, hair badge.
Dello, thou knowest Midas touched his beard and 'twas gold,
Well,
that the pages cozened me of it,
no lie,
that I must be revenged.
in good time.
Thou knowest I have taught thee the knacking of the hands, the tickling on a man's hairs like the tuning of a cittern.
True.
Besides, I instructed thee in the phrases of our eloquent occupation as, how, so will you be trimmed? Will you have your beard like a spade or a bodkin? A penthouse on your upper lip or an alley on your chin? A low curl on your head like a bull or dangling lock like a spaniel? Your mustachio sharp at the end like shoemaker's awls or hanging down to your mouth like goat's flakes? Your love locks wreathed with a silken twist or shaggy to fall on your shoulders?
I confess you have taught me Tully di Oratore, the very art of trimming.
Well, for all this I desire no more at thy hands than to keep secret the revenge I have prepared for the pages.
Oh, sir, you know I am a barber. I cannot tittle-tattle. I am one of those whose tongue's off well with silence.
Indeed, thou shouldst be no blab, because a barber, therefore be secret. Is it not a good cure, Dello, to ease the toothache and never touch the tooth?
Oh, master, he that is your patient for the toothache, I warrant, is patient of all aches.
I did but rub his gums, and presently the rheum evaporated.
Deus bone.
Can I
Is that word
mid-line,
coming to the
please,
barber's...
Stephen?
Sorry?
I think that was me.
Sorry. Beg pardon.
Deus bone, is that word come into the barber's basin?
Aye, sir. Why not? My master is a barber and a surgeon.
In good time.
Oh, Motto, I am almost dead with the toothache. All my gums are swollen, and my teeth stand in my head like thorns.
It may be that it is only the breeding of a beard, and being the first beard, you shall have hard travel.
Old fool, dost thou think hairs will breed in my teeth?
As likely, sir, for anything I know, is on your chin.
Oh, teeth. Oh, torment. Oh, torment of teeth.
May I but touch them, Dello? The teacher's tongue to tell a tale what villainy it is to cozen one of a beard. But stand not thou nigh, for it is odds when he spits, but that all his teeth fly in the face.
Good motto, give some ease, for at thy coming in I overheard of a cure thou hadst done.
Teeth. I will not have this pain, that's certain.
Ay, so did you overhear me when you cozened me of a beard. But I forget all.
My master is mild and merciful because a barber. For when he hath the throat at command, you know, he taketh revenge but on a silly hair.
How now, Petulus, do they still ache?
Aye, Motto.
Let me rub your gums with this leaf.
Do, Motto. For thy labour I will requite thee. Oh, rascal! What hast thou done? All my nether teeth are loose, and wag like the keys of a pair of virginals.
Good sir, if you will, I will sing to them, your mouth being the instrument.
Do, Dello.
Out, villain, thou bitest. I cannot tune these virginal keys.
They were the jacks above. The keys beneath were easy.
Oh, a bot's on your jacks, and jaws too.
They were virginals of your master's making.
My teeth, good Motto. What will ease my pain?
Nothing in the world but to let me lay a golden beard to your chin.
It is at pawn.
You are like to fetch it out with your teeth, or go without your teeth.
Motto, withdraw thyself. It may be thou shalt draw my teeth, attend my resolution. A doubtful dispute, whether I were best to lose my golden beard, I or my bone tooth. Help me, Licio, to determine.
Your teeth ache, Petulus, your beard doth not.
Ay, but Licio, if I part from my beard, my heart will ache.
If your tooth be hollow, it must be stopped or pulled out, and stop it the barber will not without the beard.
My heart is hollow too, and nothing can stop it but gold.
Thou canst not eat meat without teeth.
Nor buy it without money.
Thou mayst get more gold if thou lose these, more teeth thou canst not.
Aye, but the golden beard will last me 10 years in porridge. And then to what use are teeth?
If thou want teeth, thy tongue will catch cold.
'Tis true. And if I lack money, my whole body may go naked. But Licio, let the barber have his beard. I will have a device by thy help to get it again. And a cousinage beyond that, maugre his beard.
That's the best way. both to ease thy pains and to try our wits.
Barber, 11 of my teeth have gone on a jury to try whether the beard be thine. They have chosen my tongue for the foreman, which crieth guilty.
Gilded, nay, boy, all my beard was gold. It was not gilt. I will not be so overmatched.
You cannot pose my master in a beard. Come to his house, you shall sit upon 20. All his cushions are stuffed with beards.
Let him go home with thee, ease him, and thou shalt have thy beard.
I am content, but I will have the beard in my hand, to be sure.
And I thy finger in my mouth, to be sure of ease.
Agreed.
Dello, sing a song to the tune of My Teeth Do Ache.
I will.
And we have a song coming up here and going round the room. And Petulus starts with an O. There's a missing O in your line there. You don't have to sing, but some lovely enthusiasm as you sing would be lovely.
Oh, my teeth, dear barber, ease me. Tongue, tell me why my teeth disease me. Oh, what will rid me of this pain?
Some pellitory fetched from Spain.
Take mastic else.
Mastic's a patch. Mastic doth many a fool's face catch. If such a pain should breed the horn, 'twere happy to be cuckolds born. Should beards with such an ache begin, each boy to the bone would scrub his chin.
His teeth now ache not.
Caper then, and cry up, checkered apron men. There is no trade but shaves, for barbers are trim knaves. Some are in shaving so profound, by tricks they shave a kingdom round.
And they exit. End of scene. Yeah, it does have a certain panto quality to a lot of this. I mean, there's some lovely lines in there. Your teeth ache, your beard doth not. Yeah, I really like Petulus. Just 11 of my teeth have gone on a jury to try whether the beard be thine. God, that's just such a lovely extension on that. Yeah, it's really nice. So yes, we've got they were talking about I want to get my hair turned gold. This did indeed happen. He's got a golden beard, comedy golden beard, and doesn't want to lose it because he wants to live off it. I don't know. Is he planning to pluck a hair every so often to keep going? Helen.
Yes, it's a little complicated. We don't know how he managed to get the beard from the barber. I mean, the beard was the barber's, which was touched by the king. And then by some trick, it was got from him, bundled up and pawned. But we don't know how, I think.
I wonder if it's to do with beards being stage props. So we're back in a sort of meta world again. That you can take a stage beard off really, really easily.
That's not how I was reading it at all. Lois, you're muted at the moment.
I assumed it was stolen. I mean, the barber apparently has drawers and drawers full of beards that he's taken from people. And those, of course, would eventually be also the sort of thing you'd find in an acting company, especially a boys' company.
And there's some really nicely, tortuously drawn out jokes here. What for the herbage, it is not at herbage. Just so you can get to hair badge. It's just this. It's like you know where you want the joke to end. We've got to set it up somehow. Where it's going to sit over here. Hang on, can you see the punchline? Can you see? It's fun, but there's some torturous business going on. Other thoughts, questions, issues about this scene? Lynsey.
Yeah, just say, I mean, I don't have anything intelligent to observe, but I really enjoyed that bit that Motto had when he was sort of demonstrating the patter that he taught to Dello, the phrases of our eloquent occupation. A low curl on your head like a bull, or dangling lock like a spaniel. You can just, it paints the picture, doesn't it, of, somebody walking into the barber's premises and they kind of swing into action to sell them whatever they can. I did enjoy that.
Other thoughts, questions about this, Lois?
Yeah, there is, as people have been noting in the chat, a lot of great language in the scene. It's funny because it contrasts with the real awfulness of what's going on. I mean, I found it was literally setting my teeth on edge, this idea of the barber deliberately shaking all his teeth, getting ready to knock them all out, quite obviously. It's no wonder that there's this pun on shave, meaning to cheat or to do something dishonest. I mean, people must have really distrusted barbers and the sort of power they had over people.
Other thoughts, Helen?
Yeah, I think there's also the contrast between the discussion that Midas has had with his courtiers about what is best, what is good with gold, what is bad with gold. And then you get the servants who are also disputing whether it's better to have gold or a toothache. And you can't eat without your teeth, but on the other hand, if you can't buy food, you can't eat either. So you've got a certain parallel.
Briony?
I just really like that observation from Helen, and the fact that, like, even in contemporary times, it's this idea that like Midas is a king who obviously is at the top end of the wealth scale already, and he is debating how useful it would be for, to have everything he touched turn into gold at the start. And then now you've got the other half, the people who are at the bottom of the pile financially, and how much of a difference it would make to their lives, because it's that question of, can money buy happiness ever?
We are approaching extra time. We're not quite there yet. Any final thoughts on this scene? I put in the chat, I was going, I had a feeling we've had a sort of barber's surgeon's scene before. And I think Lois pointed out it was it Damon and Pythias? Yes. So there's a similar sort of, though very different in many ways, sort of element of things going on, though superficially similar, very, very different in terms of what is actually trying to happen in the scene. I'll go to final thoughts. So we're approximately nearly in the general direction of halfway through the play. We've got a session and a beat to complete the text. Structurally, it seems very much we're going upstairs, downstairs. We fly from the main debate point to a complementary but slightly different set of less serious, more comedy scenes. So we flip between a much heavier, weightier question. Yes, just noted in the chat, Stephen was asking about the songs. So all of the songs in Lyly turn up in later printings. They don't appear in the original printings, but they do seem to be matching the action in the play. So it may be that they're not from the original time, or that they are songs that have been located later on or are worked towards. But they do work very well within the text, so it's not something we're particularly worrying about. It's basically our point about the random songs. We've only had one song from the boys. Maybe the boys sang some more songs. That's what they're for. But only one song that we have. So, final thoughts from around the room. How are we enjoying the play so far? It's so far presenting itself as a much less problematic or questionable play than we've had in other Lilies. It's debating slightly less pressing issues, perhaps issues that our modern world is much more interested in, because we're always interested in money, and straightforward questions perhaps going on there. So how are we finding it so far? I'll go to Elizabeth first. How are you finding the play?
I'm finding the play really enjoyable. I was thinking about all the other Lily plays we've done. We've done Campasse, we've done Endymion, Galatea, and Mother Bombay. I think, is it 4 or are there more that I haven't added?
There are seven plays we've done prior to this one. There's eight extant that survive.
Oh, wow. So there's a few more that I haven't named, but I was thinking about how different Midas is from the other plays we've done. I think that I really like the contrast between sort of the upstairs and the downstairs characters. We have the king and the gods like Bacchus and Eristus and those characters, and then they have their speeches and their dialogue. And then we have sort of the characters like Dello, Licio, Motto, and they have their parts, which are sort of a different microcosm. And rarely do the two meet, but when they do, it's quite interesting. So I'm enjoying it a lot, and what I'm finding is that we've just got a new side of Lily that we haven't explored before. And Midas is really well drawn, really well painted. And I really love the characters in this. I think they are fantastic.
Excellent. Helen, final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, one is always on the alert for nymphs and shepherds, but
Stand by.
They haven't yet put in an appearance, so maybe we'll escape them this time. But no, I mean it's good stuff, and I think I'm with Lynsey on the barber's chat. I think that is absolutely excellent. I also made a quick note that you could buy 3 eggs for a penny. Important information, this. But no, I think some of the statescraft discussion is quite interesting too. I'm so far so good, this play.
Yes, it's keeping its two strands relatively separate. We'll see whether they get more enmeshed as we go, but they're both working very nicely. Yeah.
No, I think there is more connection between the strands than in many plays, because at least Strand B is commenting on Strand A, and the plot of The Barber's Beard is a direct part of Strand A. So, in fact, I think that this is slightly more connected than most of Lily.
Yes.
Where they live in different universes.
Yeah. So far they don't feel detachable. They just feel they're just doing it similar, but in a very different energy. Perhaps is a better way of putting it. Rachael, any final thoughts?
No, what Helen was just saying about them. I feel like sometimes in Lily's play, the comedy servants, there's not a connection to the A plot, but there is some moving it forward, that you feel the situation for him, even when he's not on stage, when Midas is not on stage, has gotten worse because of their joking descriptions about what's happening. Like Lois was saying, how, the things with the beard going on, having to sell the gold, and that he's starving, and they're talking about eggs and food so happily, and all the different ways that you can eat them because they can eat and he can't. I don't know. This is just another. I think this one is so hard to put. I like this play, but I don't understand what I like about it. It's one of those plays where it's tragic, but it's very comedic at the same time, and it's a laugh all the way down to the bottom.
Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm having difficulty making my mind up about it. The A plot and the B plot, I'm not convinced that they're as interdependent as yet as seems to be thought by some. I found it incredibly difficult to try and follow the debate elements of the A plot because the speeches are so dense in content that they don't come over at a first read or first listen. And I'm perpetually frustrated by the showy-offy Latin quotes which he keeps throwing in, which, as I've said before, I suspect would have gone over the heads of many of the audience at the time, let alone now.
Briony, do you have any final thoughts? I know you may need to dash off. Are you able to just throw in anything before you disappear?
Yes, just I'm agreeing with a lot of the comments. I don't want to go over the same stuff, but this is my third Lyly now, and one thing that I am starting to associate with him are these really fun, well thought out characters that are very richly coming across through the text.
Excellent. Lois, any final thoughts?
No, I don't think I have anything to add, really.
Excellent. Yes, you're allowed. We are allowed not to say anything. If you have nothing to say, that is fine. Stephen, any final thoughts?
Yeah, there's a bit of sort of misdirection at the beginning because but it doesn't take us very long to get into the Lylyverse, does it? You know, we seem to be in kind of monarch and advisors territory, but that's pretty much dropped, and then we're into kind of 100-mile-an-hour plot land. On the topic of the sort of unity or otherwise of the play, I was trying to work out what it reminded me of, and it reminds me a little bit of James Joyce in the sense that we've got two kinds of verbal invention going on here. We have very disciplined and grammarial and grammatical invention, which is also showing off about the kind of the structure of language, and then there's a kind of sheer joy in no sort of pun left unturned, as it were, in the kind of what one thing connects to another and connects to something else again, the sort of sounds and the sense, and that for me is kind of there's a sort of tone to do with that approach to the language, which is uniting it. I mean, I'm still kind of going, as plots, I'm not so sure, but the differing approaches to verbal invention, which is at the same kind of pressure, it's at the same water pressure in both of them, but it's coming out in different ways, and that to me is what's sticking it together.
Yeah, I may be misleading because I said there's an A plot and the B plot, but in a sense, there's just Midas gold. That's it. In a sense, there isn't that much else going on. There isn't, in a sense, an A plot and a B plot. There's just stuff is happening to Midas. It will get sorted out, and everyone is reacting to that. And so all of the scenes are reacting to that. The servants are reacting to that. The masters are reacting to that. And that is just simply spiraling off around them. So it might be actually just simply by labelling it as that A and B plot that I've sent us down a blind alley in terms of what this play is trying to do. Lynsey, any final thoughts?
Well, I mean, like Lois, I agree with a lot of what other people have said, and I was just reflecting that I think I'm enjoying this more because what we're currently calling the A plot and the B plot are together in the same play, and if it was just the A plot or just the B plot, I don't think I don't know what I'd feel about it, but it just seems like these are just, very different things happening around in this world, and it's making it very enjoyable, I think.
And Emma, Midas, made a pretty terrible choice here. How's it been for you?
It's been great. I really love, as I said before, the language, the comedy. And as with a lot of Lyly, if you're willing to really put in the work, I think they're good to go. I mean, as long as you really break down those big speeches, because all the wonderful language, imagery, well-structured arguments in these speeches and these debates, they're all there. But as an actor, you have to work out what it all means and then put it across in such a way that you hold the audience's attention. And if you can do that, great. And the same with the comedy as well, the shorter, snappier scenes. As long as you understand and take some time to work out all the jokes, then great, it's going to be really fun. And I think, yeah, it is, the subject matter is quite universal and relevant. The line that stuck with me in the scene we just read, "Thou mayst get more gold, if thou lose these, more teeth thou canst not." The idea of you can always get more money, but there are some things in life you only get one of. I think that's quite a life lesson, really.
Mm. I'm really interested in the relationship between all of the Lyly plays that we've done recently. I mean, there's a simplicity of style to these later plays that I'm really interested in. The structure of Love's Metamorphosis, Woman in the Moon, very simple structures. In a sense, this is a very simple structure as well. It may be using more of the comic servant in a slightly separate way as we may associate with some of the earlier Lyly plays, but in a sense it's really matching that style, some of those other plays. We have longer speeches than we've had for a while, but they're really good long speeches, and I don't have a problem with the long speech as long as it's a really good one. So yeah, we have more sessions on this week. I've just realised that we're doing a play, Midas, Gold, and later in the week we're going to be doing All for Money. That should have been a really deliberate choice that was really clever, and then I just realised that no, I just did it randomly, and it's just because they fitted together in terms of time. That's the only reason that's happening. So on that note, all that remains is to thank all the wonderful readers for their time this afternoon. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye.
Bye.
If thou want teeth, thy tongue will catch cold.